This webinar offers a comparison between the education systems in Mexico and the United States and the differences in terminology in the two countries. It also informs parents how to navigate the US K-12 system, regardless of their immigration status and that of their parents to attend schools in the United States. This webinar will also provide information to parents of the high school graduation plans in Texas. Hi, welcome to this webinar on the basics of the US education system and how it compares to the Mexican system. My name is Dr. Nilka Aviles. I am a senior education associate at IDRA, a former principal and a current university professor. I'm here with Diana Canizales, who represents the VOE, which stands for Ventanillas de Educación Educativa. Welcome, Diana. Thank you for being here with IDRA for this webinar, which is titled Navigating the US K-12 Education System.
Hello, Dr. Aviles. Thank you, and thank you, IDRA, for having me today.
Very good. We know that the education system, like I said, is different, and navigating it in a new country can be very overwhelming. So during today's webinar, we wanted to break down some of the basics. Diana, could you tell us a little bit about how the educational levels in the school system in Mexico compared to those in the United States?
Sure. Well, the educational system in Mexico, it's quite of a difference than the one here in the United States of America. The first difference is that Mexico's education system is centrally regulated by the Secretaría of Public Education. This means that the curriculum and the textbooks are designed and selected by the centralized education system. Also, in Mexico, students get to keep the school-issue books. In the U.S., the education system is controlled by each state. Therefore, the design of the curriculum, the compulsory attendance laws, and the selection of texts is decided by each state. Books are loaned to the students, and they can use them, but they must also return them at the end of the course. If they lose them, then they will have to pay for them.
Diana, could you talk to us a little bit about the differences in what grades are considered part of high school, of middle schools, and elementary in the two countries?
Yes, the terminology around grade levels here in the United States can be confusing for incoming students and their parents. To begin with, in the United States, students spend 5 years in elementary school, 3 in the middle school, and 4 in high school, following a 5, 3, and 4 system. In Mexico, the students spend 6 years in elementary school, 3 years in middle school, and 3 years in high school, following a 6-3-3 system. It is important for immigrant parents to learn the educational terminology so they can effectively navigate the K-12 education system. IDRA is also making these slides available on this website.
So now that we have gone over the basics of the two systems, let's talk a little bit about a common questions that parents and, of course, more importantly, students have, and that is, what do I need to know about the dress code in the U.S.?
Many public schools in the U.S. do not enforce a mandatory dress code. In fact, most of the schools encourage the students' clothing choices to reflect their personality, regarding it is as a means of a personal expression, so long as the clothing is appropriate for school, of course. However, some schools in the U.S. do require wearing uniform. In Mexico, schools generally each have their own set of uniforms for boys and girls from grades K to 12.
Thank you, Diana, for explaining that about the dress code. Now, tell me a little bit about grades. Is there a difference between Mexico grades and the U.S. grades in how students are given those?
Yes, there is So as you can see in the screen where it says United States and Mexico, it says that, for example, here in the US, the letter system goes A, B, C, D, while in Mexico, it's regulated by a number system, 10 to 5. And as you can see, like the whole examples in the screen.
Thank you, Diana, for explaining the grading system. What is some advice you can give parents when they are going to enroll a child in school here in the United States?
Well, Dr. Aviles, I think as many of the school system, it is important for parents to be proactive and ask questions. If the school officials does not speak the same language they do, they can ask for a translator or speak to a school official who does speak the same language. As we discussed it in the first VOE webinar, let me remind you that the right to an education for undocumented students, it's guaranteed by the Pliers versus Doe decision. And then certain procedures must be followed when registering immigrant children in the school to avoid violations of the civil rights.
Okay, so can schools ask for proof of residency? Is that legal?
Well, schools will ask for a proof of residency to show that they live within the school district boundaries. If parents do not have leases to show mortgages, rent, or utility bills, they need to give a school an affidavit, which is signed sworn statement, stating that they live at a particular address.
Okay, and now the other thing that I know sometimes schools ask for is the immunization records. What advice can you give parents on this matter?
When a school asks for immunization records, they must give students a period of time to get their shots.
Thank you, Diana, for that response.
You're welcome, Dr. Aviles. It is important for parents to know their rights. I know many parents sacrifice to come to the US to give their children a better future, and they have dreams for their children to go to college. I know IDRA does a lot of work on making sure students graduate from high school, prepare to go to college. Can you share what parents need to know about different high school graduation plans in Texas?
Sure. Let me share the screen again. Actually, we recommend that students take what was known as the 4x4, which is, if you see in the screen, it's English 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 credits of math, 4 credits of science, 4 credits of social studies, and then, of course, all the other elective courses that are required for graduation. One of the things that is important to address is that in the math section, it is critical that students take Algebra 2. That's very important. So not only do they take English 1 through 4 and 4 credits of math, but again, they have to include Algebra 2. And then, of course, again, like I mentioned, 4 credits of science and 4 credits of social studies. And there are other elective courses that are required for graduation.
I understand better now. Can you talk about how the rules changed for high school students back in 2013 under the law called HB 5?
Sure. The new graduation plan is a combination of 22, what they call core classes, refers to as a foundation coursework or the basic diploma. But additionally to that, there are 4 specialized credit courses that can be taken from 5 possible endorsements. And the 5 endorsements are the multidisciplinary studies. You see them here on the screen. The multidisciplinary studies, STEM, business and industry, humanities, and public service. So students, if they take the 22 core, which are the basic, plus they get 4 additional credits, as you see here. And then those 4 credits they could take from any of these endorsements. Now, the one thing that I could tell you is that we at IDRA, and also as a high school academic dean, I encourage students to take the multidisciplinary or the STEM, because there are more rigorous classes here. And any of these 2 will actually prepare students for the other 3 endorsements in terms of their careers. So it's better off for a student to take the multidisciplinary or the STEM, because if they decide to then go to any career in any of the other 3, they will be prepared. But if you are in one of these other 3 and then you want to go into, for example, engineering, then you may have not taken classes that you should have. The other thing that is important to know is that the state requires the multidisciplinary studies. The other 4 are not necessarily required. So a school district may have multidisciplinary, which is required, and they may also only offer 2 others. So again, I strongly encourage students to take the multidisciplinary or the STEM, because they will be better prepared for any college career.
Dr. Aviles, I think it is a very important information, and I really appreciate you to share with our parents and viewers. What else should parents know about the new law?
The other thing is that students also can earn a performance acknowledgement label in their transcript and in their diploma for outstanding performance. And by getting that specific label, they need to take either dual credit courses, which stands for, you take a class that counts for high school, but it also counts for college. That's why it's called dual credit. Or it also, if you take also advanced placement courses, or what they call international baccalaureate courses, or if you're in bilingualism or biliteracy program at high school. Also the SAT test scores or ACT test scores, all of those count towards being able to get that particular performance acknowledgement. And they can also receive the performance acknowledgement for earning a nationally or internationally recognized business or industry certificate or license. So any of those count for that particular diploma.
I see. Okay. I also heard that IDRA talks a lot about the importance of algebra 2. Can you talk about why that's so important?
Sure. Taking rigorous courses such as pre-AP, which stands for pre-advanced placement, or advanced placement, or and that is including algebra 2, will help students be more prepared for college, because algebra 2 skill sets are required not only for the distinguished level of achievement diploma, but also a lot of the questions that appear on the SAT test or the SAT test come from that particular class. Additionally, if students take the Algebra 2 class, they are eligible for the top 10% rule. And the top 10% rule, or the top 10% plan, also they call it that way, allows any, let's say a class of graduates is 400. 10% of 400 is 40. So when the students are ranked in terms of their grades, the top 10%, which means the 40, in that example that I'm giving you, are automatically admitted to any public university in Texas. The only exception is for the University of Texas in Austin, because they only accept the top 6%. They have that 6% plan. But that is important, because if parents don't know that Algebra 2 is a requirement for that 10% rule or plan, then, and if the student doesn't take it, they might be in the top 10%, but if they didn't take the class, then they are disqualified from that top 10% plan.
Dr. Aviles, I know that IDRA also does a lot of work to make sure schools properly access students' knowledge, so that schools do not unfairly keep students from moving to the next grade or keep them from graduating. Can you talk about what student needs to be graduate besides completing their courses?
Yes. In high school, students need to pass 5 end of course exams after they take the following courses: English 1 and 2, Algebra 1, Biology, US History. But if they don't pass 1 or 2 of these exams, they still can graduate by the school selecting, well, they have a committee that will review the credentials of each of the students. And the committee can also ask the student to complete a particular project, and then the student needs to present the project that they have done and show mastery of those skills through that project. And then the committee can determine student actually met the requirements that they have set for him or her. And after that's done, then the committee recommends that the student can actually graduate and walk the stage. And then, of course, then the student is very happy at that point. It is important that parents work closely, though, with the student's counselor, with the teachers, with the administrators, and keep an effective communication as an advocate, and to make sure that the student is taking not only the most rigorous coursework to be prepared for college, but also that they maintain that good relationship and communication with them to ensure the students are successful.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Aviles. I really learned something new today from you in some of the coursework. What can be done if students struggle with their coursework?
That's a very important question. And it's important for parents to know that, and I can speak for my example, for my experience as former principal, I can tell you that it is the responsibility of the school to provide what I call genuine support by all teachers to ensure that all students are successful in all of their classes, not in some, but in all of their classes. And like I said, I know by experience that when students begin to struggle, sometimes teachers go to the counselors and ask them to drop them from the class, and that is not what needs to be done. What needs to be done is students need to go and teachers need to work with the students and make sure that they provide that genuine support that I'm talking about, that those extra, either extra assignments or different assignments to help the student actually master that content. And when they do that, when they do provide those engaging activities different than what they've done in the regular classroom, students really rise to the level of expectations, and they do drastically, there's a change in their academic performance. So the school principal needs to, is very key in this, because if they're not involved, like I said, what happens sometimes is that teachers want to remove the student, and that is not the answer. The answer is that teacher is responsible to ensure that that child, as well as all other kids, are successful. And they need to find ways to provide a different lesson, whether differentiated, more engaging, to make sure that the student actually mastered that content. And like I said, they do rise to that level of expectation. So it is important for parents to know that if a teacher wants the child to be removed from the class, they need to go and advocate and say, no, I don't want that to happen. And I know that for a personal fact, because I have a nephew that a teacher wanted him to be removed from a pre-AP English class. And I went and talked to her, and it was all because the child did not do certain assignments. So I said, well, that's not the reason to remove him from the class. That I will take care of it at home, but the child needs to remain in class. And that's exactly what I did with my own nephew. He'd rise to the level of expectations and did extremely well, not only in that pre-AP class, but in all the ones that he had. And he went through high school, finished, and went on to college. So if I would have let it change from pre-AP to a regular class, then maybe he would have not been better prepared for school. So it is important that parents keep good communication with teachers. And if they see If they perceive that their student is not receiving that genuine support that they need, then they need to talk to the principal so that the principal can intervene. And even if then the parent is not satisfied, the parent can also reach to central office for assistance.
Wow, I'm so impressed. I think your nephew must be very thankful to you. And I wish I had an aunt like you when I was in college, you know, just to learn more, probably have more time to be more prepared. But thank you, Dr. Aviles. Also, we wonder, what can parents do to ensure their children are in the right courses every school year to stay on track for college?
Yes, that's a very good question. Like I said, I recommend strongly that students are placed in more rigorous courses. And with the right support, they can rise to that level of expectation. So parents need to know what classes the students are selecting. And if they see that it's not a class that is at the level of rigor, then they should ask why. And like I said, the classes are, the rigorous classes in middle school start with what they call pre-advanced placement. And sometimes if a student can't, if you don't want the student to be in all 5 pre-AP classes, at least if they can be in the pre-AP English and the pre-AP math, they can do well in social studies and they can do well in math, in science. So taking pre-AP classes, AP classes, dual credit classes, or IB classes are important. And what they need to do is to talk to the counselors, the teachers, and the administrators, because it's key for them to have that communication with them. And the school personnel is the one that has a responsibility of providing information to the parents so that they will be well informed so they can make the right decisions. What I don't like to see sometimes in some of my experiences is that, like I said, sometimes they want to just go the easy way out and then say, well, because the child was struggling in this class, let me put him in this lower level class. And that is actually a disservice to the student. Instead of making assumptions that the child cannot rise to that level of expectation, that they cannot perform to that level, they need to know, yes, my child is smart enough to do it. All I need is genuine support through tutoring services. And me as a parent, what I need to make sure is that I make sure that I take my child whatever days and whatever times to that tutoring session and make sure that they are receiving that support so that they can actually improve academically and be successful in the class. I've seen it with special ed students rising to the level of expectations. I've seen it with students that are English language learners. When they receive the support that they need, they are successful. And that is for all students. I'm very passionate about this topic because I have seen so many great things in schools, but I also have seen some that are not so great. By removing students from higher level courses just because they were struggling. And again, that is not the answer. The answer is provide support for students, that genuine support, and not just tutoring from this time to this time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That doesn't cut it. It is, I want to make sure that the students are there receiving the tutorial services in activities that are meaningful so that they can actually master the content. But I'm very passionate about that. I wish I can continue talking more about it, but I know our time is precious and we need to really finish because we are to an end. But it looks like I said, our time is up. Well, thank you, Diana, for joining me. If you want more information or you need further assistance, parents or anyone, you can contact VOE by emailing Diana at dcanizales, and that stands for CANIZALES .voe@gmail.com. And you can also call IDRA at 444-1710. For more resources on how to navigate the U.S. K-12 system, also there are many resources on our website at idra.org. Thank you so much for listening to us. Stay home, be safe, and take care of yourselves. Bye.